Hello, I'm Kaylee Rose Evans. In this video, I'm going to be using a bit of psychology to understand and try and offer some practical tips of how people can manage tangent thinking and those horrible moments where you just get stuck in your own thoughts and you just feel like you just can't be set free from them. And it can be a horrible feeling. So the book I'm going to be referencing and some of the things that I'm going to be saying come from Chatter, the book by Ethan Kross, which I absolutely love. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that straight away. Right, so the first thing is, I think it's safe to say that every single human being has a need to feel connected to other people and have a sense of belonging. That's just a basic human need. So one of the ways that we get that and achieve that is through our connections with others. We look to others for reassurance and to understand the world around us. Often we do that through talking, so we'll connect with others through talking, and when we're upset or feeling stressed, we might go to others for empathy, and that can feel good in the moment because it's a horrible feeling when you feel alone and you're trying to deal with these problems, and sometimes just talking to someone helps, especially when someone's actively listening to you. You know, the sort of listening where you know that they're really engaged in what you're saying, so they're not looking all over the room, they're looking right at you and you feel supported by them. So that can offer relief. However, something that was really interesting from the book was the distinction for when you're talking to others but it doesn't actually alleviate the feeling that you're experiencing. So the reason that I found this so helpful is because recently I had a situation where I'd been through quite a traumatic experience whilst supporting someone. It was very high stress and I was carrying a lot of risk, and obviously it was very difficult for the person, but I think it's good to recognise where, as a practitioner, so I'm a social worker, it can impact you as well from being involved, because it's an emotional job and that's part of it really. So I think we should be open to giving and receiving support. What I found is that when I was actually speaking about the situation with someone, I sort of felt, connected to the person, but I didn't feel better. And I think it's because I was sort of telling them what had happened and they were asking me questions and I was recounting details, but as I was saying it, the physiological effects of stress were coming back, and I'd had this inbuilt, this sort of inside feeling of tension and stress from it, but when I was talking about it, they came back and I felt like they'd resurfaced even more. So I ended up feeling worse after the situation, and that's not the person's fault, but I think I hadn't really realised how much it was affecting me. So what Ethan says is that this can be chatter, and when we talk to other people, that can increase the negative elements of our chatter if it becomes co-rumination. So that's when people are asking us questions about it, but they're sort of prioritising our needs to feel empathised with and supported, so to meet our emotional needs as opposed to our cognitive needs. And that's quite normal because we prioritise our own emotional needs above our cognitive ones. But what people need is both. So we need people to make us feel better in that way by listening, but we also need someone to offer solutions, which is why things like CBT have become popular, because that's solution focused. So I ended up in a similar situation, but I'd been sort of reflecting on the usefulness of maybe accessing therapy, and I was aware of EAP, so that's the Employment Assistance Programme. So I did a one-off phone call when I was going through a stressful situation at work, and in one session over the phone I felt 100 times better. And it's because I didn't understand fully the situation in my own head. Like, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I felt like I wasn't succeeding, and it helped me realise that it wasn't that sort of thing that I was dealing with. It wasn't something that where there was anything to achieve, and I was setting myself unrealistic targets basically. And they helped me by talking about the fight and flight response that you can feel. So how you can feel in danger and you're getting like these reactions where you feel like you're going to battle, but it's confusing because you're actually sat in your own house. And I know a lot of you will know about that already, so it'll sound quite simple possibly, but actually hearing that in that moment where I felt overwhelmed really helped me to take control. So I wrote loads of notes and I thought about it, and they said a lot more than just that, but it really helped me get out of that situation. And I felt back to myself by the next day. That's one case of where adding perspective helps, but we can actually give ourselves perspective without having external help as well. That can be through techniques such as talking to yourself as an outsider. So it's like self-coaching basically. So I used this technique recently when I was in a progression interview. So it was quite daunting, and you know, in interviews you always feel like quite intensely judged because everyone's looking at you and writing notes, and it's because you are being judged basically. But anyway, I started to like feel my voice getting a bit quivery and nervous, and what I thought about was all the things that I'd sort of done that were way more scary, and I borrowed that confidence, but I used my own name to offer myself some reassurance. So for example, it sounds a bit random, but I was like, Kaylee, you have done way worse things than this. What's the worst that can possibly happen in this room? You're not going to die from embarrassment if you say something stupid. Just pull yourself together. You can do anything for 45 minutes. And I was just saying those sort of things in my own head and like coaching myself instead of letting myself say really negative things to myself. And it really did help. And I do observe that a lot of people verbally say things, but I think we negatively like talk to ourselves in our own head. And I think sometimes if you talk to yourself as if you're an outsider, you can be a bit kinder. And I think it's important to remember to talk to yourself like someone you care about, because you wouldn't talk to a family member like that. Be a bit kinder to yourself. So yeah, there's a lot of practical tips that Ethan gives in the book, and I do recommend it because I do think that this is one of the biggest things where if you get stuck on your own sort of problems and you get stuck like you feel inside yourself and everything becomes too overwhelming, it can really like lead to you feeling like you're losing yourself. And it's something that I'm constantly like reading and learning about because I think it's so important to have these sort of skills in everyday life. So I hope that's been useful for you, and I'll be putting the details of the book in the description box. Thank you.